Hello friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Mohamad and today we're going to be implementing email verification to our previous application which we have created a login and a registration system. We're going to be adding email verification where users will not be able to access their account unless they verify their email. We're going to do a live email integration with Mailgun and we're going to be basically forcing the user to actually verify their email before they can actually do anything and generate a JWT token. We're going to be utilizing Mailgun free account where we're going to be able to, I think, receive as many emails that we want, up to like 5,000 emails, which we're going to be using inside this video. But it's a good service to utilize if we're just going to actually test and build our application. So without further ado, grab your cup of coffee and let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is basically we need to get our source code in order for us to get started. So instead of rewriting everything from scratch, we're going to be utilizing an application that we have already worked on before and add that functionality to it, basically the email functionality. And to get the source code, what we're going to be doing is we need to go to my GitHub page, and basically it's going to be github.com/MohamadLawan087. And once you get to my GitHub page, please don't forget to follow me there. So once we get there, what you need to do is you need to click on repositories, and inside the repositories tab you're going to be seeing all of my publicly available repos, and the repo that we're going to be utilizing today is going to be the net6-authentication-jwt. So we're going to click on that, and basically once we click on it we're able to see that my application there. And basically what we need to do is we need to either download it or we need to clone the application. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to open my terminal, and basically I'm gonna be able to clone my application. So it's gonna be, let's navigate to my desktop. I'm gonna go to my web folder, work in progress. I'm just gonna make, I think we have an authentication folder, and I'm just gonna clone the application there. So git clone, and I'm just gonna pass the URL that I have. And now that the application is cloned, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to utilizing Rider to open the application and basically edit it from there. So we're going to go to Rider, and here I have my applications. So what I'm going to be doing here is, in essence, I'm going to click on open. I'm going to go to desktop. I'm going to go to web authentication, my application here. I'm going to click on the SLN file and I'm going to click on open. And yes, I do trust this. So now we can see that the application is loading and it has opened. So the first thing that I want to do here in essence is I just want to build the application. So let me open my terminal, and I'm going to navigate to the folder Formula 1 app, and I'm just going to put .NET build to make sure everything is building as it should be. Perfect. Build has completed, and as we can see here we got build succeeded, exactly the result that we wanted. So once we have done that, the first step that we're going to be doing is we basically need to install some kind of a NuGet package, because basically what we're going to be doing is we need to send emails, and the tool that we're going to be sending to send emails, if we go back to my web browser, we're going to be utilizing a service called Mailgun. And basically Mailgun is a very good email service which provides us to actually send emails and basically receive emails as well and keep track of them. So you can actually set up a free account with Mailgun. All you need to do is provide some information, and once you do that you're going to be able to get a free account which I think allow you to use or send up to 5,000 emails. So we're going to be utilizing this service in order for us to send our emails. So once you actually register, what you're gonna have is basically you're gonna and log in, you're gonna basically be directed to the login page, to the dashboard. And actually within the dashboard here, what you're gonna be able to see, where you are able to get all of the API keys that you're gonna be needing and all of the functionalities that you wanna get from there. As well, it will give you a very good get starting guide. So if we take a look here at get starting guide, it's basically this link here on the right. It will take you to, in essence, to like a page where you're able to actually see how to actually send your first email. So basically it will give you the information in curl. What we want to be doing is we're going to be utilizing C#, and basically in C# here it gives you a sample request that of what an example could be of how you can actually utilize your API key, or basically how you can utilize the email functionality that Mailgun provide in order for us to send an email. So if we read this example here, what we can tell is basically what we're doing is we're doing an API call to the Mailgun API. So we can see here we're calling https api.mailgun.net/version 3. So we can see here from this example that all of the information that we need to send are basically what we need to do is we need to do an API call to a certain endpoint, and while we're doing this API call, we're going to be able to send an email. So that seems pretty straightforward for us. So in order for us to actually send an API and do an API call within our .NET application, there's a NuGet package which is really good that I highly recommend we use. It's called REST API. So let's go to Google and we'll put REST sharp NuGet, and if we click on this, let me zoom in. So here we can see that we have this REST sharp NuGet package, and this REST sharp NuGet package, it's a very good NuGet package, which is allowing us to do all kinds of API calls. And as we can see here, it has more than 140 million downloads, which by itself is a very good sign. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to take this and we're going to go back to Rider. And inside our NuGet package, I'm just gonna paste it. Inside our terminal, I'm just gonna paste it and click on enter. And basically this will install the NuGet package for us. And if we come here and click on edit, and we're gonna see edit the CS profile, we can see that REST sharp has been installed successfully into our application. And that's basically the first step that we need to do in order for us to get started with this. So the next step is we're going to be actually modifying our controllers in order for us to actually start implementing this email functionality. So let's get to it. So before we can actually start updating our source code and our application, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be seeing this registration journey that we had before, and we have worked on it. If you didn't see my previous email, I'm going to be linking it here somewhere, where basically what you can do is you can go watch it and you can see how we came up with this. So in essence, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be updating this flowchart so we can actually understand where are we actually adding the email verification. And then once we actually understand where does it fit within the registration process, we're going to be actually updating our code. So instead of actually modifying this, what we're going to be doing is just let us take a copy of this, and we can modify this. So we can have multiple copies simultaneously. So save, and let's scroll this down. Okay, great. And basically, if we take a look at this registration process, what we're going to be doing here is basically once an email has been saved correctly, instead of actually generating the JWT token directly, what we're going to be doing here instead is actually sending an email. And that email basically is going to enforce the user to click on it in order for them to verify that this email is actually valid and it's not a spam email. And basically once the user actually verify their email and make sure that it's a valid email, we're going to be allowing them to logging in. So instead of here having generate credentials, so this is going to be changing to generate verification email. Let's fix the wordings here. And basically once generation of the verification email is done, we're going to be sending it to the user. And once the user has sent it, we're going to say here, please send or we can say that the user is not allowed to log in until email is verified. So you might think to yourself, why are we doing this? Why do we need to verify the user's emails and account for every user who's using our application? Because in essence, we don't want actual spam on our application. This application, we want to actually prevent as many as fake emails or fake accounts as possible. And a way to do that is basically by doing a verification email. So for example, any spam user will be able to create an email, for example, at m.com. So if in theory this is a valid email address because it has the @ and it has the dot and it has that format. But for example, we all know this is not a valid email address. Or for example, an email could be user@email.com. Again, this is also a valid email from the structure of the email point of view, but it's not a valid email address. And we might have a lot of these emails, and we don't want them actually to have access to our system because it's not a valid email. So this is why we need to actually generate a verification email so we can actually prevent spam user in our application. So let's delete this. So now that we know where exactly we want to actually add this verification email, what we're going to be doing right now, we're going to go to our controllers and we're going to start updating it from there. So let's go back to Rider. And we're going to be opening our controllers, our authentication controllers. And if we scroll a bit down, we're going to be looking at our registration controller. So inside the registration controller, we can see here that we already have added all of the checks that we need to do. And basically the first item that we want to do is once we are actually creating a new user inside here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be forcing the email to be not verified. So we're going to say email confirmed, we're going to say false. So that's the first thing we want to do. Basically, we are enforcing the email not to be verified, because basically once we're going to add the check, well, if a user tries to log in without actually having a verified email, that's where we're going to be able to actually detect it. So once we actually make sure that this field is false, we create it, and if it actually creates successfully, here we are creating the tokens. So that's what we don't want to do. We want to actually add the logic here where we are actually generating the code and actually sending it. So let's comment this out. Let's comment all of this out. And let's start adding our code. So the first thing that we want to add here is basically we need to add a way where we can actually generate a random code that's going to be unique to this user. And basically this random code, it will not be easily guessable. So luckily our identity framework provides us with this functionality that we are able to actually get a code which is going to be generated automatically for us. So let's see how this is going to work. So first of all, we're going to put var code, and then we're going to put await. And as we said, we're going to be utilizing the identity manager and the user manager to do this. So we're going to put underscore user manager dot, if we put email here, and if we take a look at all of this information, we can see that we have a generate email token async. And if we take a look at the description, it says it generates an email change token for specific users, which is exactly what we want. So basically it allows us to not this one. It's going to be generate email confirmation. Yeah, it's going to be generate email confirmation token async, which basically generates an email confirmation token for a specific user. And in essence, this will allow us to actually, for a specific single user, we're going to have a unique code which only belongs to them. So let's say I created an email with my first email. I registered with an account with my first email, and I received this email. And let's say I want to try to verify, someone steals this confirmations email and they try to verify it with their own email address. This will not work because this code that I'm generating is only going to belong to me. So let's click on this one, and if we take a look at what's expecting, it's expecting an identity user, and our identity user is going to be new underscore user, which I have just created here. So once we have built this, basically this is going to be as simple as that. Now we have our code that's going to be unique to that user, and all of that just came out of the box within utilizing the user manager, which is provided by the identity framework. So once we have done that, the next step is for us to actually have some kind of an email body. And again, this is a demo application, so we're going to have a very simplistic email body. So we're going to have var email body, and we're just going to say I don't know, maybe we can say please confirm your email address. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're just going to put let's say an href, so a ref equal, so here we're just going to put a escape characters, and then basically we're gonna close the href, we're gonna put click here, and then we're gonna be closing the A, and we're gonna be passing here a certain URL, or let's put a semicolon at the end. So here let's just put a placeholder where we can actually input a URL. I think that should be fine. We don't really need this thing interpolation. So basically what we're doing here is we're preparing an email body, and inside this email body basically what we're doing is we're creating like a button where user will be able to click, and inside this button here we're just passing the URL that we're going to be generating, and this URL that we're going to be generating is going to be including the code that we have just created here. So now that we have our email body, let us start actually building our URL that's going to come here. So we're going to first create a variable, and basically this variable we're going to call it var, let's say callback URL, can be whatever we want, and basically this URL, it needs to follow whatever the environment you are in. So for example, if we're going to be running this locally, it needs to have localhost, the port number, and then the action itself, controller / action. If it's going to be, for example, on our website, so let's say I have a website called mohamadlawan.com, it's going to be https colon / www.mohamadlawan.com / authentication / verify email. So we need to make this email dynamic, or actually we're able to capture the actual URL based on which environment we are actually running the application. And to do this, it's very easy within .NET. So the first thing is basically we're going to put request.scheme, and basically request.scheme is going to tell us if it's going to be an HTTP, it's going to be an HTTPS, so on and so forth. So that's going to be out of the box available for us. Then we're going to put the plus sign, we're going to put quotations, then we're going to put .. So now we have put so basically let us put it here so we know what are we filling. So for example, a domain, it needs to be in this format, if I can get to it. So it's going to be, for example, https / localhost, I don't know, port 8080 / authentication / verify email / user user underscore ID, for example, user ID, and then we can put the code. So that's what we are trying to get to. So currently the first one, which is request.scheme, it's going to be basically getting if it's an HTTP or HTTPS. Then we put the colon / Next, now we need to put this, we need to actually load this dynamically, because if it's locally, it's going to be localhost. If it's going to be running on our online web server, it's going to be like the actual domain. So the way we do that, we're just going to put plus request.host, and that will automatically get us the URL that we need, so that our domain, if it's going to be running locally or not. And then once we have that, what we need to do is right now we need to build this actually here. So we need to build the controller, and then we need to build the action, and then we need to pass any types of argument that we want. And again, .NET makes it very easy for us. So we're just going to put plus, and we're going to put URL. See if this is, let me scroll this down a bit so you are able to see it. Okay, we're gonna put URL.action, and then basically inside of this it's gonna tell me what do you want to add. We're gonna say that the first thing that I want to do is I want to add an action. So I'm gonna say this action is gonna be confirm email, and then it's gonna ask me which controller do you want to add this into. So again, I'm gonna say it's gonna be part of the authentication controller. So need to have these. I'm gonna put authentication. And then once I add this, the next step is I need to pass the parameters. So basically what I want to do inside of this, I'm just going to create a new anonymous object, and basically it's going to be user ID equal new underscore user dot ID, and then I'm just going to pass the code equal code. I think that should be enough. So if we take a look at this, first of all, it's not happy because we don't have the confirm mail available in this. We're going to be creating it. So right now, let us do a quick summary of what we did. We first got the scheme, then we got the host, and then we actually build this entire thing with utilizing the URL action. So inside the URL action, we have identify our action, and then we specify the controller, and then we pass the arguments for this URL in order for it to work. So once we have done all of that, now what we need to do, we just need to update the email body. So let's do this. So I'm gonna put var email equal, or we can say body equal email dot body underscore body dot replace, and basically I'm gonna be replacing the URL here, which is gonna be our placeholder that we have created, with the callback URL that I just had. But what I'm gonna be doing is I'm basically gonna be encoding it, because once I encode it, I make sure that this random URL that has been generated, it doesn't have any escape character that might affect my navigation. So for example, let's say it had an and a forward slash, so that might affect the entire process of the URL, so I need to basically escape it. So the way I do that, all I need to do is just basically encode this, which is very simple, and we can do it, utilize the system.text to do that. So we're gonna put system.text.encoding encodings .web .html encoder .default .encode and then basically I'm just gonna put here the callback URL, and that should be it. So just a quick summary here, because this code that we're gonna be generating, it could be, for example, a very long code. It could be something like, I don't know, random numbers, like it could have an and statement and something like this, equal something like this, forward slash something like this. So these are escaped characters, like the and, equal, the forward slash, the and this might affect the navigation of it, and we don't want that. So that's why we are actually basically encoding it, so we can avoid this problem. So once we have done this, basically the next step is for us to just send an email. Send email. But because we're going to be utilizing Mailgun, and if we go back to the Mailgun navigation, or sorry, to the Mailgun documentation, we can see here that what we need to do is we need to do a call to our to their API endpoint, which is in this case this one here, and we need to fill all of this information in order for us to do this call, which is pretty straightforward. So let us come back here and let us create a new function which is going to be solely responsible for creating emails. So at the end of this action, at the end of this controller, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the new functionality here. So to create this email function, it's going to be very simple. We're going to make it private, and for now we're just going to put void, but we're going to update this with an actual response, and we're going to call it send email. And then what we're going to be requesting is we're going to be requesting the string body, and then we're going to be requesting the email that we're going to be sending it to, and that I think should be fine. The better way to do this is actually have an email service, but that's gonna be way out of scope of this email, of this video. Excuse me. We're gonna create a unique email service which is gonna be solely responsible for creating emails. If you're interested in something like this, please let me know in the comments, and we'll create a video on purely how we can create an email service which we can actually utilize dependency injection to actually inject it anywhere we want inside our code, instead of having one single function which we are repeating every now and then. So, but for now we're just going to utilize a very simple way of we can actually sending emails. So as we said, because we are utilizing Mailgun, if we go back to our web browser, as we said, it's going to be basically doing a REST call, an API call, and for that we have installed already REST Sharp, which is going to be our API NuGet package, which is going to allow us to do those API calls. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a client, which is basically an API client, which is going to allow us to actually do these calls. So we're going to put var client equal new REST client, and then we're going to pass the domain. And if we come to the documentation here, we can see that the domain that we need to send to is going to be this one. So let's copy this and let's paste it here. So that's the first thing that we want to do. And basically the client here, we're telling the client that this is going to be the URL that you need to actually send all of the requests to, and that will make it easier for us on the long run, instead of having, if we need to, for example, send multiple URLs, or for example send multiple emails. We don't really have to worry about this because we already set the URL there. So once we have created a client, the next step is we need to send a request. Var request equal new REST request, and we're gonna basically say it's a empty URI because we're sending it to the main one, and basically we're gonna say the method here dot post. So if we take a look at the documentation here, we can see that the method that we are sending is a post, so we need to make sure that the method we're sending is a post. And because we don't have any controllers or action within this domain, we don't really need to specify a resource, so we leave it as empty. So you might think to yourself, okay, so what's the difference between a client and a request? So as we said, a client is just like we're preparing our source code to communicate with a certain endpoint. The request is what are we actually going to be calling inside this endpoint. So here we're just saying that we're going to be calling this endpoint, and we're going to specify the request as post. So once we have done that, the next step here, if we understand how this works, we can see that we have an authenticator request, and basically we're passing an HTTP basic authenticator, so we can actually, the service will be able to identify which user is sending what. So that's what we're going to be adding, and then we can see that we have some parameters that we need to add in order for us to make it easy for us. So let's add these right now. So the first thing, as we said here, we have the parameters that we want to pass, so that's going to be the first thing. That we have the authenticator, so that's what going to be the first thing. So we're going to put the client dot authenticator equal new HTTP basic authenticator, and here, for example, if we take a look at it, what's going to take, it's going to take a username and a password. So if we take a look at this, we can see the username is always going to be API, so we're going to put a username as API. And you might think to yourself, okay, this is the API that we want, this is the username, where are we going to be getting the password? So if you go back to your dashboard, once you create your account, and basically what you can do from here is you can actually create API keys. So once you go back to your Mailgun dashboard, if you click on your name here, you have a small icon. Once you click on that drop down, you're going to see something called API keys. If we open this API key in a new tab, inside this tab here, what we can see is we have the securities that we currently have, as well as we have the API key. And basically inside the API security, we can see that our API keys are available for us. So you should see your email, your API key here. So I'm not going to do this right now on the screen because I already have it. So you can click on this icon to view it, and then you can actually copy paste it. Excuse me. And once you copy it, you can pass it in the code. So for the sake of this example right now, what I'm going to be doing is, if we go back to our application, I'm going to be actually saving it here. So inside our app settings.json, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to create email config section. And basically inside this email config, we're just going to have API key. And here where we're going to be putting our API keys, and for the sake of this, I'm just going to put it right now here. I'm going to change it later on where I'm not recording, so we can test the actual email functionality. But basically here we need to put our API keys, and we're going to be actually referring to it from inside our controller. So as we have done before, whenever we have any reference to our app settings, we can use the configuration.get section and build this. So what we can do here, we can just put underscore configuration.get section, and basically here we can actually pass the keys similar to what we have done previously. And if we take a look all the way on the top, we see that we have automatically injected the iConfiguration, which allows us to actually get the information directly from the app settings. So here we have email config. So let's take this, let's go all the way down to where we were, and basically this is going to be the first thing, and then we're going to take the second one, which is going to be API key, and we need to paste it here. And then lastly, once we excuse me, once we do all of this, we need to put dot value. And basically what we're doing here is we're just getting the password from our app settings. So instead of injecting it directly into our source code, which should not be the case, we are adding this secret inside our app setting and reading it from there. So that's the first thing that we need to do. Another thing that we can do as well is we can put the URL for this one here inside our app settings. We can do it. I just decided just to put it here for now. But in essence, everything which is confidential and you don't want inside your source code, you should always put in the app settings and refer to it from there. So now that we have created our authenticator and basically we made sure that we are passing to it all of the right information, the next step is basically adding all the different parameters that it requests. So if we take a look back at the documentation here, we can see that we need to pass all of this. So the domain that we're sending it from, the resource, the from to, the subject, and the actual email body. So let's add these right now. So first things first is we need to go to request.add parameters. And basically the first thing, if we take a look at that, it's going to be the domain. So first it's going to be domain, then we have the resource, and then so on and so forth. So let's do this here. So this is going to be domain. And basically once you create your account within Mailgun, you're going to have a sample code shown up to you. So I'm not going to show this here because it's contained my unique key for me, so I don't want to share it here. But in essence, you can see here that you have this sandbox environment, and within the sandbox environment is basically, this is the test domain that you can use within Mailgun and to actually send this stuff. So we're just gonna copy this and we're gonna pass this test domain that we're gonna be using in order for us to actually send these types of emails. It's all of this test. The better way to do it is to actually link it to your own domain. If you don't own a domain and you don't want to link it, you can just use the sandbox one, which is available to you out of the box. So the next step is we need to add request.resource, and if we open it like this, so we can take a look at the documentation. Again, everything I'm doing is based on the documentation. We can see here that the resource is asking us to sending it like this. So let's add this and let's paste it here. We're not changing anything else. So after the resource, it's asking us to add the parameters from, to, subject, and text. Excuse me. So let's add these. So the request.add parameter. The first one is, we said it's gonna be from, and we're gonna say it's gonna be from Mohamad Lawand Sandbox Mailgun. And again, if we go back, everything is regarding to the documentation. So if we go back here, if we click on this one, here we can see, for example, more information about it. But again, if you just created your account, you're gonna be seeing some sample code here where it's gonna actually give you a sandbox account to use send from. It's gonna be the same thing. So let's go back to the source code. So that's going to be the first thing from. And what we can do is actually, let's put it like this. So it's going to be post master at this sample domain that they provide us, just so we are consistent. And the next step is, we have already added the from. The next step is going to be request.add parameters, and then it's going to be the to. And here we can specify any email that we want to send. So I'm just going to pass the email that we have inside the registration email. So it's going to be without the quotation. Then we're gonna put request dot let's say add parameters. Now we need to specify the subject, and we're gonna say this is a please verify email verification email. verification email, email verification. And then we're going to put requests dot add parameters dot it's going to be text, and we're going to pass the email body here. So let's go back to our documentation to make sure we did not miss anything. So we have added here the from, yes, the to, we only have one right now, so we don't want to put different ones. It's a subject, and the text, which is going to be the body, and we already made sure that this is a post. So once we have done that, let's go back to Rider. And basically at the end of all of that, what we're going to be doing is we're just now, because we have prepared now the request, now we need to send it. And the way we send it is basically going to be, let's add this again. There's no method equal, although we have already specified it, but there's no harm. So we're going to put just client. Now we're going to be preparing to send it, and we're going to say execute the request. And let's take a look here, and basically this will give us a REST response. So we're going to say var response equal, and basically here we're going to say response dot, let's see what it gives us. It gives us the content, the version. Does it give us if successful? That's exactly what we want. So we want to return if it was successful or not. So we're going to put return, and then here we need to change this to Boolean instead of void. So right now what we did here, let's do a quick summary. So first of all, we created a client and we linked it to the Mailgun account. We created a request. Then we basically did the authenticator. We had the password for the authenticator. We put it inside our app settings. And then we have added all of the parameters that we need, like the domain, from, to, subject, text. All of these we have added them. If this looks weird, which is gonna be the postmaster, just use the sample code that they gave you, or if you want to understand, basically postmaster is a generic one to send an email, and we're just utilizing the domain that they provided us to send this, because we did not link our own account, because we need to have some kind of an email domain that we need to send from. And basically we're adding all of the to, subject, and text to that email, and then we're specifying again that it's a post, and then we're sending this request, and basically we're returning if it's a successful request or not. So now what we can do is let's go back to our registration action. It's gonna be up, 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 up. So what we're gonna be doing here is we just need to send an email. So because it's a method inside of it, so var result equal send email, and basically the send email is gonna request the email body. So we have this ready, and it's gonna request the email of the user. So we're gonna put new underscore user dot email, and that's it. And now what we're gonna be doing, if it's successful, actually we don't really need to check this, but what's a good thing to do here is we're gonna return an OK, and basically inside this OK we're gonna send just a message. So what we can do is something like this. So if result, so it means that the email has been sent successfully. We're gonna send the message is please verify your email through the verification email we have just sent, something like this. So that's in case it happened, or in case it didn't happen, what we're gonna be doing is we're just gonna, so in case the email doesn't work, we can just return okay. Actually, we don't really want to inform the user of that, so for now just pretend that everything is gonna work. But in essence, if the email did not send, we're gonna just say please, okay, let's put this again. We're just gonna say please request a new please request an email verification link, something like that. Okay, let's see this one. So it's telling us to revert it. Okay, we can do it any way we want. Let's do it like that. It's easier to read for now. So let's save this, and basically this is still not happy because the confirm email here does not exist. So let's create this action right now. So this action, basically it's gonna be, let's put it here. First of all, let's create the route. We're gonna say confirm email. It's gonna be basically an HTTP GET, and it's gonna be public async task iAction confirm email. And as we have previously said, if we take a look at the link that we have verified here, it's going to take a user ID and a code, and both of them are secrets, strings, sorry. So string user ID, string code, and for now we're just going to be returning okay. We're just not doing anything, just returning an empty okay, just to make sure that this is running and working. So as we can see here, we have basically created the callback, we have populated the body, we have sent the email, and now we're just basically within that email we should be able to receive the code as well as the user ID. So let's add this here, user ID. Now before we actually test it, let's add the actual logic for email confirmation, so we are able to actually confirm that email for the user. So basically what we need to do here, first of all, we need to make sure that the user ID and the code are not null. So we're going to say if user ID equal null, or code equal null. Basically we're not going to be proceeding with this request, so we're going to returning bad request, and we're just going to say let's say new authentication result, and we're gonna say here that this has failed. So basically in essence we're gonna put errors, new lists, and we're gonna say here that the error is gonna be invalid URL because it does not contain the right parameters. Invalid email confirmation URL, as simple as that. So in case the both user ID and code exist, the next step is basically we need to check if that user ID actually exists. So to do that, we're going to put var user, and then we're going to be utilizing the user manager that provided for us out of the box, equal await underscore user manager dot find, not get, find by email async. We're just gonna pass the, actually let's find by user ID, find by ID async, and just gonna pass the user ID, and then we're gonna do the same check again. So it's gonna be if user equal null. We're just gonna return a bad request. So let's copy this, and we don't want to give a lot of information about this, so we're just going to say invalid email parameters. That's all we're going to say, invalid email parameters. Okay, great. So once we have checked that the actual user exists and it's a valid user, now what we need to do is we need to get the code. Because we have decoded it, we need to encode it, and then once we do all of that, because we have encoded it, we need to decode it, and then we need to actually confirm the email. So let's do this right now. We're gonna put code equal encoding .utf8 .get string, and we're gonna say convert .from base 64, and then we're gonna pass the code. And then once we have done that, we're gonna put var result equal await underscore user manager. Again, this is provided for us out of the box. We're gonna put confirm email async, and we're just gonna pass the user that we have, which we have gotten as well. We need to pass the token, which is gonna be the code. And then based on that, we're gonna have a message which can be var status equal if result dot succeeded. We're just gonna have thank you for confirming confirming your email. Else we're gonna say your email is not confirmed, please try again later. As simple as that. And once we have this message here, all we need to do is just return this with the status. So we're gonna just put return the status, and that should be it. So now that we have done all of that, let's go back to our chart. So right here what we did is basically we have added the email verification and we are able to send it to the user. The next step that we want to add is basically if a user tries to log in without actually verifying their email, we need to stop it. And that's going to be the next part. So let's see where are we going to be adding this. So let's take the login process here. So let's copy this one and let's take it all the way down, somewhere here. And basically let's update it. So what we're going to be doing here is an extra check, which is basically let's move this here. So once we make sure that the email exists, before we can actually check the configuration if it's a valid email password combination or not, it will be a good idea for us to check if this is a valid email. So let's add this right now here, and what we're gonna be doing is we're just gonna pass this arrow here and we're gonna say email verified. So in case the email has not been verified, it's gonna be as simple as just directly returning back an invalid request. So we're just gonna say, let's copy this one, it's easier like this. We're gonna say here email not verified, and we'll pass this directly here. But again, in case it has been verified, we're just gonna be continuing to the checking of the verification if it's a valid email and password. So that's gonna be the next step for us. So first of all, we need to check if it's gonna be I need to fix the alignment. Let's see, let me log in. Okay, let's go down. Okay, great. So now that we have our logic in place, so basically let's go through it. Once the user sends the email and password, we'll validate the request. If it's not a valid, we'll send invalid credential. If it's valid, check if the email exists. We're looking up the email. If it does not exist, we stop the user journey. If the email exists, we continue. And then once the email exists, we check if it's a verified email. If not, we continue. If it is verified, we continue with the email verification with the username and a password. So right now, let's go to the login action that we currently have. So this is register, this is confirm email, this is the login action here. And basically within the login action, what we're going to be doing is once we actually find the email address of the user, we're just going to add, after we check if it exists or not, the next one is going to be actually if it's going to be existing user dot confirmed email, because that's what we want. So if it's not confirmed, we're gonna just return, let's copy this one, we're gonna return a bad request saying that email needs to be confirmed. As simple as that. So all we did here inside the login is we added an extra check, which basically check if the email has been confirmed or not. So let's try this right now. So first of all, let's run this. And let's open Insomnia. this here, but let's use insomnia. So what I'm gonna be doing right now is I'm gonna be, let's see, this it's hard to see, so let me change the preferences. So I'm gonna just make this 36 and this 36 again. Okay, I think it should be big enough. Okay, yes. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be going to a sample email service which is called Yopmail, disposable emails, and basically we can just create any random emails from here. So let us just zoom in. I'm gonna call this one sample email version 1234, I don't know, and we're gonna use this email to check. So let me copy this and let's go to insomnia, and basically my name is gonna be, let's say, Mohamad Yopmail 1, because we're gonna be creating multiple ones. This is gonna be my email address, so let's paste it here. Let's make this a bit bigger, and the password I'm gonna keep it as is. Now let's see what happens if I try to register. It says please request an email verification link. It means that something has went wrong. So if we click here, I haven't received any email. So let's put a breaking point and see what went wrong. So first of all, I can see that something has happened inside my database. It means that the user has been added successfully, but it could be that my email functionality did not work. I know why it didn't work, because I did not update my email key. So let me do this right now.
A few moments later.
Okay, now that I have updated my key, let's try this again. So let's go back to my web browser, and I need to create a new email address. So let's just copy this, and we just change the random number. So instead of 1, it will be 2. Okay, let's copy this, and let's go back to insomnia, and let me update this email. And let's put this as 2, and let's send this request. Please request. Also, we're also having an error. Okay, let's add a breaking point and let's follow it to see what's happening. So let's minimize this, and inside our registration, let's put a breaking point here. And let's create a new email address. Just gonna call it 3, and let's copy this, go back to insomnia, update this, make it a 3, send. Okay, let's see what's going on. So as we can see here, the code has been generated successfully. The email body is ready for us. The callback URL is built. As we can see here, it has localhost 7192, API authentication confirm email with the user ID and the code afterward, exactly what we wanted. The email body is updated. Now let's go to the send email functionality. So we're getting the client, the request, the authenticator, the parameter is being passed. So all of this should be, I think, unless this is wrong, which could be my, could be the issue. Let's see. And let's see the response that we're getting. Unauthorized. We're getting a forbidden. What's the error message? We're just getting an unauthorized. Okay, let's see if there's a description. No. Do we get here any types of response? Request failed with unauthorized code. Okay, that should be fine. Let's see the content header, if we're having any extra information here. Let's see the row view. Okay, let's try this again. So let me stop this, and I think if I'm not mistaken, we need to update this one. So let me just update the from to exactly how I got it first. So it will be let me copy paste it. I have already here somewhere. Let me post this, see if this will make any difference. Okay, so after a bit of investigation on the issue, the main item, or basically the main issue that we're not receiving email, if we go back to my web browser, it's going to be two things. The first thing that we need to do is, because this is a test account, basically you need to add your authorized recipient. So for example, these are the recipient that we are allowed to receive emails, because this is a test account, because we cannot send it to anyone. So what you can do is you can just specify the pre-agreed authorized recipient, and you can just put your email here and save recipient. That's the first thing you need to do. So instead of having a dynamic email, for now we're just going to be hard coding it to this email that I'm going to be receiving this email to. And if we go back to my source code, the second thing that we need to take into consideration is, which I forgot to add in the first place, is basically once we are defining the parameters of the domain, we need to add this at the end, which is, it says, if we take a look at the description, it says that this is the parameter type, and we're telling it that this is a URL segment. So this is needed in order for us to send this information. And that's it basically. So first of all, you need to verify your email because it's a dummy account, or basically a test account, and then you need to add this. And as you can see here, I updated my email from a dynamic one to this one, so we are able to actually receive email to it. So let's try this again. So let me run the application. And basically right now, let's go back to Mailgun. Let's go back to Insomnia, and I'm just gonna put here, it doesn't really matter, 7. I'm just gonna change this number randomly, and if I click on send, and if we go through it, we're gonna see that the email has been sent successfully. And if we take a look at the response, we can see status is okay, and we can see that its success is true, so it means the email has been sent. And let's resume it. And right now, if I open my email, I can show you the email that I have received. It's very hard to tell. Let's see if I can zoom. So we can see here from my email, it says this is the URL that I received. Okay, we can see that this still needs a bit of work, but we can see here that I have received my email and with the link. And basically here we can see that I have this breaking address, which should be fine. We'll be able to fix it. But in essence, we can see here that this is the code that I have received. And let's do this again. So I think another item what we need to do is we need to make sure that this is let's see the code. Where is the code being generated? So let's try this without actually doing an encoder. Let's see if this is gonna be a different value. So let's try this right now. So let's run this, and yeah, let's run this. Okay, perfect. Now let's go back to Insomnia. Let's request a new email. And let's resume. And right now I should receive a new email. Perfect. Let me open that email. Still the same thing, but that should be fine. Let me zoom in. So let me try to copy this URL that we have. So copy, and let me close this and close this. And because we have removed the encoding, let's remove it from the confirm email here. So this should be only code. Actually, we can comment all of this. And let's run this again and try to see if this will work or not. Actually, before we do this, let's see if we can actually try to log in with this account. So if we go back to Insomnia and I take this email and I go to my login request, and let me take the same password, I think it is. No, it's different password, so let's take this password. And let me try to log in from here. Okay, let me paste it here. So now I should receive that an unverified email. So let's see what's gonna happen. Email needs to be confirmed. Exactly the result. So it did not allow me to log in because the email was not confirmed. So right now, let me take again that URL that I had. Let's zoom in and let me copy it all the way here. Copy. Let's go back to my web browser. Let's open a new tab. Let's paste the URL here and let's see what's gonna happen now. So I got a message, thank you for receiving your email, which is exactly the one I wanted. And now if I try to log in again, I should be able to log in. So login request, and I click on login. I got my token. So here we can see how we did basically all of the process to get an email verification. So firstly, how we can actually generate the code, how we can send the email, and how we can verify the email. So let's go back here to Rider. Let's do a quick overview of what we have done so far. So basically, in essence, what we have done here is, first of all, we have updated our register by basically making sure that this email is not confirmed when we create this user. Then basically we created the functionality to create a code. We created an email body, and then basically we created a callback URL in order for us to know where are we going to be actually sending the email verification. We then had the email, we replaced that email body with the URL, and then we created a send email functionality. Okay, let's go here. And then here what we did is basically we created a client, we created a request, and then basically we authenticated the client request with a basic HTTP authenticator. We passed the parameters and then all of those. And as we said before, because this is a free account from Mailgun, we are only allowed to send to a certain amount of clients. I think there's a way around it, but for now, let's just send it to a predefined one. Of course, when you go to production, this needs to be email instead of my email account, instead of a hard-coded one. But for now, this is only for testing. And basically, once we have done that, we are able to send the response back. And whenever I receive the email, which is, let me try to open it here, similar to this, I just click, this needs a bit more work, but again, this is all sample code. If I just paste it in, I'll be able to go to my web browser, paste the code. I should receive this message, thank you for confirming your email. And once I confirm my email, let me zoom in so you can see it better. Thank you for confirming your email. And once I have thank you for confirming your email, I'm allowed to log in. Because, for example, if I try to log in without confirming my email, I will not be able to get my token to actually resume. And that's basically the video of today of how we can actually create an email verification for our to make our basically API more secure by preventing automated users or bots to create random accounts and actually utilizing our APIs when they need to verify their email account in order for them to utilize it. I hope this video was helpful. Please like, share and subscribe if you like it. It will really help the channel, and have a great day.